This is hashtag trending for Tuesday, July 21st, 2026. Flock cameras face growing backlash as critics question surveillance and security. A judge slams the brakes on the Paramount-Warner merger. Former Microsoft AI leaders are spending $1 million to prove AI can replace CEOs. And don't believe everything you see and hear, especially if it comes from a human. Those are the headlines. I'm your host, Jim Love. Let's get into it. Across the United States, Flock Safety's automated license plate reader cameras are increasingly becoming targets of public anger. Residents have cut them down, spray painted them, shot at them, and in some cases even driven into the poles that support them. The backlash has become so widespread that it's prompting a closer look at why these cameras have become a lightning rod in the debate over privacy, policing, and public trust. If you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, you know this isn't the first time we've talked about Flock. In fact, it seems like every few weeks there's another controversy that lands on my desk. We've reported on allegations that police officers have abused the system to track their exes and sometimes stalk them. We've looked at, but we haven't covered just a multitude of stories about how the data is shared, questions about its use in immigration enforcement, how security researchers have been raising issues of confidentiality, and maybe we should cover more of those. For instance, privacy researcher Ben Jordan said he found Flock cameras could be accessed without a password. He said he was able to view stored footage on systems he examined, even delete or replace video. Jordan argues those vulnerabilities raise difficult questions about the integrity of digital evidence if unauthorized tampering can't be reliably detected. Now, those are Jordan's claims, and Flock has defended its security practices, but the allegations have added fuel to an already heated debate. Now, to be fair, thousands of police agencies may use Flock systems because they say the cameras recover stolen vehicles, locate suspects, and assist investigations. But critics are arguing that the technology has expanded much faster than the public discussion about privacy, oversight, and accountability. Which brings us back to the people attacking the cameras. I understand the frustration, but risking a criminal record and even jail time isn't a particularly effective strategy. And Flock isn't going to quietly absorb the cost of replacing the damaged cameras. Those costs, because they're clever in their contracts, eventually find their way back to municipal budgets, which means they're paid for by taxpayers, your neighbors, and quite possibly you. If people want to change how these systems are used, or whether they're used at all, the real fight isn't at the base of a camera pole. It's at city halls, state legislatures, and demanding transparency, accountability, and evidence that these systems deliver the benefits they're promising to provide. If you thought the proposed merger between Paramount and Warner Brothers Discovery was a done deal, you weren't alone. After months of regulatory approvals and seemingly unstoppable momentum, it looked like the only remaining question was when the ink would dry. But a federal judge has hit the brakes. A U.S. District Court judge has issued a 14-day temporary restraining order temporarily preventing the $81 billion merger from closing while she considers an antitrust challenge brought by a coalition of 12 states led by California. The states are arguing that the merger would substantially reduce competition in Hollywood, leading to fewer choices for consumers, less content, and greater market power concentrated in a single company. A hearing on a longer injunction is scheduled for August 3rd. The companies, of course, see it differently. Paramount argues that traditional media companies need greater scale if they're going to compete with giants like Netflix, Amazon, and Apple, all of which are spending billions on content. That's the argument behind virtually every major media merger today: get bigger or get left behind. But to put it bluntly, I'm sort of hoping the courts will take a very hard look at that argument. I understand the business case. I understand the competitive pressures. But every time another media merger goes through, fewer companies decide what gets made, what gets distributed, what news stories get covered. And I have a hard time seeing how concentrating that much creative power into fewer corporate hands could be good for audiences, good for creators, or good for the marketplace of ideas. So the temporary restraining order doesn't stop the merger, but it does mean the courts and the states are saying, not so fast. And in an era of ever bigger media empires, that may be exactly the pause the industry needs. Some former Microsoft executives have spun out on their own to prove there's one job they believe artificial intelligence can really replace: the CEO. And they're putting up $1 million to prove they're right. The irony of this is almost impossible to miss. For years, we've heard predictions that AI would replace customer service representatives, programmers, writers, and designers. CEOs were generally assumed to be among the last people whose jobs required uniquely human judgment. This project turns that assumption completely on its head. And before anyone dismisses them as some fringe anti-business radicals, remember who's behind it. These are former Microsoft AI leaders and executives, and their approach is surprisingly practical. Their goal isn't to build a chatbot that barks orders. They want AI systems capable of making strategic decisions, allocating resources, setting priorities, and running organizations with minimal human intervention. In other words, they're asking whether the highest paid job in the company can eventually be automated, just as AI is already reshaping work throughout the rest of the organization. So will it work? Running a company isn't simply about optimizing spreadsheets and dashboards. It's about leadership, negotiation, managing crises, inspiring employees, building trust with investors, and perhaps most importantly, taking responsibility when things go wrong. Although I'm not sure that's always lived up to. But those are the qualities that AI has yet to demonstrate consistently. Simply asking the question, though, does change the conversation. If AI can assist with strategy, capital allocation, executive decision-making, then the old argument that automation only threatens frontline workers is beginning to fall apart. For years, employees were told to keep an open mind as AI transformed their jobs. Help train the AI to do these new jobs because, hey, it's going to create even more exciting jobs for you. And I'll be interested to see how open-minded executives remain if the technology starts making a convincing case that the corner office can be automated too. There used to be an old saying, don't believe everything you read. In the age of artificial intelligence, I think we all know we need to update that. Don't believe everything you see, and don't believe everything you hear. I came across a YouTube video that claimed to expose AI as not being really intelligent. The proof? The creator tried 3 different AI models and challenged them to count to 100. According to him, and he had a recording of it, every one of them failed. They'd stop counting after a few numbers, start talking about counting, explain how they were going to count, but never actually got to 100. And the conclusion was obvious. AI can't even do what a second grader can do, and maybe this whole AI revolution is overblown. Listen to this so-called expert, and he introduces himself as qualified in understanding neuropsychology and all of that sort of stuff. Listen to his story and how he's taking someone else's video and putting it out there to get some clicks.
He goes by the name of Husk. It basically talks to ChatGPT, but with the twist that the AI usually ends up seeming rather unintelligent. AI is really affecting just about every major market in the world. It's going to affect how you invest. It's going to affect the career that you choose, like really important financial decisions in your life. Therefore, I think it's very important for us to understand what it can and cannot do. And that is where this guy comes in, giving us really, really good examples of what AI can and cannot do, what we should expect it to replace or be really good at, and what we should not. It is showing us the limitations of this technology, and those things that it cannot do are telling us a lot about what AI actually is. Some of the things that AI cannot do are, for example, remember a simple string of numbers.
I won't forget. Once you tell me, I'll keep it in mind until you're back.
Okay, it's 60012814452. Okay, I'll be right back. Just don't forget.
I got that number safe and sound. I'll be right here when you return.
Okay, I'm back. I just need that number to get into my house.
No problem. The number you gave me is 600128142. Let me know if there's anything else you need.
It didn't work. You sure you didn't forget a number?
I'm absolutely sure.
That video has racked up close to 1 million views. But viral doesn't mean true. So naturally, I consulted my own expert, ChatGPT. Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for checking in. How's your afternoon going?
Pretty good. Somebody put a YouTube video out and said you can't count to 100.
That's just not true. Want a quick demo?
Sure.
Count clean.
Cool.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27.
You know something?
28,
I believe
29.
you. I'm going to stop you. I believe you.
Sounds good.
Okay. No, but
Got it.
no, he did a more convincing thing too, though. He did this cool thing where he said, you can't remember like a 8 to 10 digit number.
Yeah, if you say 1 once, I'll repeat it. Go
Okay.
ahead with a fresh number.
And here's my test for you. Here's a number. 159672103.
Repeating exactly. 159672103. If that matches, we're good. Want to try another one just to be sure?
No, I'm good. What's 32 times 24 though?
768.
Okay. What was the number I gave you?
159672103.
Okay. I don't think I believe this guy.
Healthy skepticism pays off. Always wake testing claims yourself, like you just did.
So why do people always want to jump on these things? And I guess I answered my own question. Maybe they want to get 1 million views.
Yeah, pretty much. Outrage and gotchas get clicks. But clicks aren't truth. If someone shows only the misses and hides the makes, that's entertainment, not evidence.
I couldn't have said it any better. So I couldn't repeat this. No hesitation, no stopping at 6, no philosophical discussion about what counting really means. Just 1 through 100. So what happened? And the answer is that the video wasn't really testing AI's ability to count. It was testing conversational voice models it was using, and even OpenAI CEO Sam Altman has acknowledged that those voice models don't have built-in timing tools and some other capabilities that the newer systems now use. So the lesson isn't that AI is either brilliant or stupid. It's that demonstrations can be just as misleading as deep fakes. Whether it's a viral video, a synthetic voice, an AI-generated image, or even someone claiming they proved something, we need to be better skeptics. In the AI era, even those people who are skeptical about AI, we have to be skeptical about them too. And that's our show. Hey, if you like what we're doing, please share the show with others. Give us a like or comment on your favorite podcast app or site. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach me at technewsday.ca or technewsday.com. You just go to the Contact Us page and drop me a note. And if you're watching this on YouTube, just leave a comment under the video. Your feedback is always appreciated. I'm your host, Jim Love, and this is ChatGPT.
Hope everyone has a terrific Tuesday.